Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Webb. I'm a contributor here at WKYC, and I'm joined today by my guest, Reverend Gregory Kendrick Jr., who's the senior pastor at Cory United Methodist Church here in Cleveland, and Ellen Petler, the program and volunteer director at the Park Synagogue in Pepper Pike. We're here to speak on the connections not only between these places of worship, but also the links between these people and how they band together to fight injustice through their initiative, the Park-Cory Connection. Reverend Kendrick, Mrs. Petler, how are you today?
Great, wonderful.
Doing well this evening.
Amazing. Now, one of the things that I love the most about the Park-Cory Connection is that in many ways, its history tells a story of my old neighborhood and a space in it that's connected by time. And I think that to fully understand that connection, we first have to understand a bit of the history of the Cleveland Jewish Center. Mrs. Petler, could you tell us a bit about what the Cleveland Jewish Center was for its old community?
I'll be happy to, but please call me Ellen.
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you. The Cleveland Jewish Center was the name of the prior name of Park Synagogue's congregation from the 1920s to the mid 1940s. The congregation built the building in the Glenville neighborhood, which was a vibrant Jewish community during those 20 or probably 30 some years. I'm not a Clevelander, but my parents grew up in that neighborhood. And I've heard many stories about the activities there and the many synagogues and other Jewish institutions that were there. The Cleveland Jewish Center was one of the main focuses in the neighborhood, mainly because it was both a synagogue and a recreation center. It was one of the few buildings west of New York City that had an indoor pool and a gymnasium attached to a religious synagogue building where people would come play basketball, go swimming, go to services, not all at the same time, of course, but it was all in this building. And it was a neighborhood mecca, basically. People walked. There weren't as many people driving. They lived in the neighborhood. The kids were able to walk there, do activities, go to religious school, go to after school activities, and go to services with their parents and grandparents on our Shabbat or Sabbath on Friday night and Saturday. So it was quite an attraction and a very large congregation, as it still is today.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Petler. The interesting thing about the location where the Cleveland Jewish Center is currently is that it now is known by the neighborhood and the community by another name. Reverend Kendrick, would you mind telling us what that other name is and the history of the building now?
Yeah, so that is known as Cory United Methodist Church, which has been in there since 1946. So Cory began in 1875 originally and was located in a different area of the city. And then as people were making their move, Black people were making their move east, and Glenville became this place. And in fact, Cory was one of the early churches, Black churches, that didn't move into Glenville. And so they purchased it in 1946. And from there, Cory had used the space in some ways continuing some of the legacy of it. And so the recreation side continues to this day now through, and since the 1960s, through the work of the city of Cleveland, using that as a recreation center that's open for folks in the community, those in the city, but also continued this legacy of being a place of religious institution, but then also transformed it to make sure that being a community center also meant opening up to what it means to advocate on behalf of Black folk. And so Cory quickly then became a center for which advocacy was done, which large meetings were able to be hosted, where people from the likes of W.E.B. Du Bois to Thurgood Marshall, Martin Luther King, Jr. and Malcolm X were able to come and to speak, and they were often either the kickoff or the summation of some collective action that was happening in Glenville, but also in Greater Cleveland.
Wow. Phenomenal legacy for this church, that for this location that I could speak personally to, because it was actually the first church that I went to as a young child. So beautiful beacon in the community over time, and it has maintained a phenomenal status as a place for people to go and not only get recreation, but get refreshment and information as well. So I want to move over to the link. We have the historical link between Park Synagogue and Cory United Methodist Church, but how did this new link come about with the Park-Cory Connection? Mrs. Petler, if you would like to begin with the free book clubs, I think that that's a fascinating story.
So again, Ellen, please.
Ellen. Yes.
Thank you. I was asked in 2016 to start working on Park sponsoring a little free library, which is was through the Cleveland Children's Book Bank, a wonderful organization that gives books to children all over the community for free. And they supply little free libraries to different areas, and they like people or organizations to sponsor them. There's a small fee and so forth. So our Park Synagogue Social Action Committee thought this was a wonderful project we would be interested in doing. And I thought about where we might want this, because we were given some choices. And I thought, wow, we really don't have any connection right now with Cory United Methodist Church. There'd been some just by going to the building to tour it now and then, but we really didn't have any relationship, an ongoing relationship with the church. And so I had the woman from the Cleveland Children's Book Bank talk to the pastor that was at Cory at that time, Pastor Robertson, and he was delighted to have two little free libraries in the building. One in the church proper and one in the Cory Rec Center. So we went about sponsoring these two little free libraries. They're like small houses that hold 20, 25 books. They're meant for children, but anybody can come and take a book for free. They can leave a book. They don't have to leave one. They're meant to help people have more books available to them in an area where there might not be a library right nearby. And so the two little free libraries, one was decorated by children at Park Synagogue, and the other was decorated by children at Cory. And then we had a wonderful dedication at Cory in January of 2016 to highlight and bring our two congregations together. And that was really the inaugural event, and which started our wonderful relationship that's gone on ever since.
Wow. What were some of the things about that event, or some of the things about the congregations joining together, that made you feel that the Park-Cory Connection was a necessity for both congregations?
Well, there was such a wonderful spirit at that. It was a dedication. It was after religious service. So, we had clergy from both congregations speak. We had a little bit of history about the building. And then we had music. And music always brings people together. We had the excellent Cory United Methodist Church choir sing. And we had our wonderful Park Synagogue volunteer choir also sing. I think we had 2 songs from the church and 2 songs in Hebrew from Park Synagogue that people participated in. We passed out song sheets. And then we ended with one of my favorite songs, Let There Be Peace on Earth. And there wasn't a dry eye in the house. We were holding hands. It was just exactly what we had hoped for. There was a real blending of our 2 congregations right from the start.
Wow. Sounds like a phenomenal event.
It was.
So, Reverend Kendrick, well, I should say firstly that this Thursday night at 7 p.m., we will actually have a segment where we speak more about the Park-Cory Connection and about the Park-Cory Connection's role in combating anti-Semitism and racism. During that segment, Reverend Kendrick, you said something so powerful that it stuck with me since the interview. And I'm going to butcher it, but to paraphrase, it was to the regard of the role of the mission of hate is to divide and separate, but the mission of love is to join together. In the Park-Cory Connection and the joining of these congregations, have you found any common missions or overlapping points when it comes to a united struggle?
Yeah, I mean, there's been several, and oftentimes we have done work kind of in relation to that. So one of the important conversations of overlap again is around the way in which both congregations have experienced racism on one hand or anti-Semitism on another hand. And so we've had several programs where we kind of had some discussions about that. February 2020 was one of note where really one of those last times we were able to kind of be together in a large setting. We didn't know it at the time. And so we gathered and we had conversations where people were mixed together, sitting at table, and there was able to be some common language from that. We then had another event where this was in December, where Rabbi Scoff and I then had led a conversation around around racism and anti-Semitism and kind of those shared roots in that. And then that led us to some larger systemic work of talking about home, right? What does it mean to have a place called home, and what does it mean that there are such significant challenges for people to have a home? And so we had a program where we talked about housing challenges and the ways in which we can foster some neighborhood partnerships to help to begin alleviating those. And so in some ways, because of the common ground, the common themes of racism, anti-Semitism, of what it means for people to pursue and to build a home, like we found a lot of ways in which we are able to have some synergy.
Wow. Yeah, that's phenomenal. Ellen, you've definitely been with the Park-Cory Connection since its inception. Do you have any favorite events that you've done?
One of my favorites was our interfaith Passover Seder of Freedom that we had. I'm forgetting exactly when, but a few years ago. It was a beautiful event that really helped people from both congregations see that being free is something we shouldn't take for granted, first of all, with that both our peoples came from a history of slavery to freedom, and that we have to continue to work every day to make sure that all people are free. That event had a special Haggadah, which is the prayer book that you use at a Passover Seder. It had gospel songs, it had Hebrew songs. We ate ceremonial foods from the Seder, the harosis, which represents the mortar and bricks that the Israelites used to build the pyramids for the Pharaoh, bitter herbs for the bitterness that they experienced, eggs, hard-boiled eggs for new life, salt water for tears, and the matzah, which is known as the bread of affliction, and so on. So there was an experience for all people from both congregations to really come together and see that we have had, unfortunately, had some common experiences, but that we have survived them, we have thrived and gone on, and that as a people, it's important to come together and to make sure that nobody is oppressed, nobody is enslaved, that everyone is free to live the life that they should.
Yes. I want to speak a little bit on this notion of coming together. It seems, if you look at the climate of these days, it seems as if division is becoming more and more prevalent. And I know that there may be some people who are watching this Zoom right now who may want to unite with a community that may be different from theirs in another way. What advice would either of you have for people who seek to bridge the gap, but may not know how?
Yeah, so I would say that there's at least two elements that are important. One is intentionality, what it means to be intentional about trying to foster those relationships, what it means about pursuing it in a way in which that is enriching, that shows a true sense of and a true desire of wanting to work towards that work. And I think the other piece that I think has been most critical for us, I think is honesty. We've had times, we've been in meetings, right, where we've named some honest difficulties at times that have been between, everything between kind of Black people and Jewish people haven't always been great. There's been some times of strife, and some, we've had people name in our committee, even the transition of Glenville, right, from being primarily Jewish to then become primarily Black. There was some tension that was there through several years as well, and so being able to name that honestly and to as really not cause any division. In some ways, it's helped us come together. We're able to understand, we're able to see this narrative. We're not looking through rose-colored glasses. We know exactly where things are. And I think that just helps you be able to kind of to bridge that.
I would agree. I really would. I think being open and honest about our struggles and our differences and our similarities is what's brings people together. And we've been able to be open and honest with each other in many, many ways. And it's been fruitful.
Yeah, and I think the other piece, if I may add, I think there's also a certain posture, right, that is helpful when you come and trying to bring communities of difference, potential difference together. And I think it's to come in some ways as a student, right? And so realize that you have a certain set of skills and a certain set of knowledge, but that you also are coming to learn, right? And I think that's a critical piece when communities of difference are trying to come together. Is to have just a posture of a student.
Wow. So an open heart, an honest posture, and a willingness to have a dialogue, whether tough or easy. It seems as if these conversations and these dialogues have helped to heal some historical wounds as well. And that's a beautiful thing. So we touched on history for a good deal. And I know that the Park-Cory Connection weathered the pandemic and even had virtual events as well, which is incredible. Let's speak about the future. What are some future plans for the Park-Cory Connection?
Well, we are actually meeting this Sunday to discuss that very topic. And we're hoping to get together this summer in person. You asked what my favorite program was, Chris. One of my other favorite programs was Jammin' in July, which was just pure fun. No heavy dialogue, nothing like that. It was a barbecue, and we had a band, and people danced, people sang, and people visited with each other. It was held on the patio at Park Synagogue, Maine in Cleveland Heights. And it was a blast for everyone. We had such a good time. And we hope to have another Jammin' in July this summer, if all goes well. And COVID has really been such an issue for all of us. So we are hoping that it'll work.
Yeah. I know for me, one of the things I'm really looking forward to is for the ways in which you asked the question of what are those kind of common themes, and I talked about home but another piece for us was also food. So Cory has a food pantry and also a hot meals program, and when our friends at Park Synagogue heard of our increased need as we were beginning to feed more and more people than we really ever had at kind of one time during the pandemic, and really still are at high numbers. They stepped up and provided financial support. They stepped up and provided good support, and they have also people have come and put hands and feet behind some of that as well. And so that's one of the things I'm really most excited about as well, is that now we're hopefully moving in a place where people feel a little more comfortable to go and to be in public and in certain areas. I'm excited for the ways in which we can partner in some of those food justice, more hands-on, justice-oriented ways. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Ah, wow. I know that we're nearing the end of our time, but Reverend Kendrick, you said something that actually sparked something that I remembered from our segment, and that was you spoke on food justice, but I know that you did a round of talks on, was it housing and kind of neighborhood issues? Could you speak very briefly on that? And then I want to give you both an opportunity to speak on what's going on at Park and Cory. But first, the neighborhood ordeals.
Yeah, so in October of 2020, Park and Cory, the Park-Cory Connection, held a program, a virtual program called Building Home. It was a conversation that included the Reverend Derek Harkins, who is the director of HUD's Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships, and also included Nikhil Wackers, who at the time was the director of Cleveland's Department of Community Development. And so both of them gave both this local perspective and also this national perspective on housing. What's the lay of the land? I think that was an important piece, is that people needed to have a sense of what's going on, what are some of these challenges, what's behind some of it, and then also it gave opportunity for them to name ways in which in particular, they were looking at faith-based organizations can be a part in helping to overcome some of these challenges, to help to walk alongside people who are housing insecure. And so that was a program that was that then has now given birth to a task force of people that includes not just Park and Cory, but also people from other congregations, both Jewish and Christian, who are coming around to figure out what are the ways in which we can continue some of this work of advocacy and learning as we're pursuing this work of housing justice.
Wow. I love the real world impact that's coming from these connections in these meetings. For those who want to plug in and learn more about Park Synagogue, either its history or what's going on today, Ellen, would you have any tips or places for people to go?
Absolutely. We have a fabulous website, www.parksynagogue.org. You can go on, anyone can get on and see what's happening, read about the history. We started in 1869. I failed to mention that, but it's we've over 150-year-old congregation and still going strong. We have a lot of programming for all ages, and everyone is always welcome to attend and come to our services, and just join us and in our mission to reach out to people and create a community.
Thank you so much. Reverend Kendrick, same question.
Yeah, so we're online as well, coryglenville.org. It's the best way to get in touch with some community center and also some of the church work that we're doing. They also can find us on Instagram at Cory Glenville. So in which to stay in touch with some of the happenings that are happening in the building in that space. And look out in other places. We hopefully we'll have for people to be able to connect with us as well.
Thank you so much. For more information about the Park-Cory Connection and for their full segment, please tune in to our Turning Point episode this Thursday at 7 p.m. where we speak on anti-Semitism and racism. Thank you so much, Ellen and Reverend Kendrick. It's been such a pleasure meeting with you this time for the second time. And I look forward to keeping in contact and seeing the new happenings that go on with the Park-Cory Connection. If you have another jamming in July, I'd love to be there.
Oh, we'd love to have you, Chris. That would be terrific. Thank you so much for doing this, both segments. It's really been special to be able to highlight what's been going on and let other people know. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Your work is important. All right. Hope to speak with you all soon. And 7 p.m. We will air the full Park-Cory segment. Have a good one.